Right. Evening, everyone. Okay, we'll get started. Good. Yeah, so welcome back for the new week. Okay, very quickly, those of you who are first time joining us, I'd like to welcome you to the Trading Dose. What we do over here is every week, okay, we run something like that where I'll break this session into two main parts. The first part here is I'm going to share with you some opportunities that you want to keep an eye on for the week. Okay, some of the general direction that I believe it's attractive, and that's where the opportunity is. And then the second part of the session over here will open up for Q&A. So if you guys have any questions related to trading, investing, that's your good chance to actually clarify them. Okay, and of course, if you are trading actively and you have some of the any asset, right? It can be FX, it can be stocks, that you'd like me to share my view and opinion on. Okay, you'll be able to also let me know in the chat box, right? So yeah, so that's what we usually do over here. Okay, so first up, we'll go through some of the potential setups that I'm personally looking out for the week, and then after that, that's where the Q&A is gonna happen, and can ask any questions you want, right? So great. Okay, let's get started. For this week over here, if you take a look at the events calendar, it's pretty much quiet compared to, of course, last week. We do have like NFP, the Canadian Labor Data, but this week here is relatively quiet. Okay, we do have the BOC rate statement that is happening on Wednesday. And after that is Friday. We do have the US CPI, right? So to me, the US CPI data is pretty important because that tracks inflation, and of course, the idea here is if we start to see very good sign on inflation picking up, then the Fed might signal an earlier tightening process, and that would of course have an impact in the financial market as well. Right, so it's important to keep track of those data at the same time. Now this week, okay, in terms of FX, we do have some decent setup. Okay, however, I would say you might need to be a little bit patient because some of this setup seems to be moving on the Monday market. Okay, most of the time Monday are quiet, tends to just range a little bit. But for example, like Euro Australia, this I'll show you in the chart, dollar yen, they seems to start moving a little bit, right? And usually when it move like that on Monday, then you probably need to be a little bit more patient because your opportunity might only come maybe later part of the week, right? Because it's still moving right now. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more as we go through those pairs. But first up over here, I want to bring your attention to dollar franc. Okay, so dollar franc over here, this is on a 4-hour time frame. Let me bring you to the higher time frame first. Okay, this is on daily. So daily over here as of now, okay, I'm looking at more short-term weakness on the US dollar. Okay, so we are expecting dollar to still weaken a little bit, but eventually, nothing goes in one direction all the time. So we do expect some kind of rebound, retracement, reversal from the dollar soon. Okay, so when I mean soon, it's not like next week or so, but I think it can probably take another couple of weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks. The dollar can still continue to weaken, but after that, we might see some strength coming in. Okay, so dollar franc over here, for this week, then the direction is still focusing on the downside. I think the momentum is still there. Potentially, there are two key levels that I'm looking out for to short it. Okay, to target, right, where my target is. The first key level is at 8,930. Okay, which you can see this is the previous low here. The other low is this point here, which is around 8,870. Okay, it's pretty much similar. It's about 50 pips, 60 pips of diff, so it's not that wide. Okay, now on the 4-hour time frame, this is what I'm seeing. Okay, you do see this as a very nice corrective pattern. Okay, 3-wave move. That's a classic Elliott Wave flag, and then from there we have a smaller push to downside the momentum. And today we are seeing this correction, right, which is decent, which means that if this continue on just doing a very sideways move like that all the way until maybe tomorrow. Okay, when I mean tomorrow, depending on where you are watching and joining us, if let's say you're in the Asia sessions, right, then tomorrow would be, just before London. Okay, if let's say you are watching it in the US or in the UK, then tomorrow, I mean, in terms of your time zone, is probably gonna be like very, very early in the morning. Okay, so over here, what we are looking out for is, of course, by tomorrow, just before maybe the start of London. Okay, if let's say this is something like that, then you have a very good trade setup to take it to the downside, at least for the short term. Okay, so if I go down to the 1 hour time frame, you can see this setup even clearer. Okay, some of you who trade technical patterns, you can see double top. Last Friday, it broke that neckline with NFP being the catalyst. Okay, very strong push to the downside, very clear impulse push, and then of course, it has been consolidating for for the past 1 day, since Friday until today. Okay, so by tomorrow, if this is still there as a correction, then you have a very good trade to the downside. The probability is about 60% it will continue to the downside. Okay, and therefore you want to focus on that direction. Okay, so dollar CAD is definitely one opportunity here you can keep an eye on, at least for the short term within the week. Dollar yen, actually, I was looking at it. I wanted it to kind of develop something very similar to dollar franc, but you do see dollar yen seems to be going down already, right? And this is one of the pair that I say usually on Monday it shouldn't be moving so much, but we are seeing dollar yen starting to come down, right? But most of the time, my experience tells me that Monday moves are usually fakes, okay? Which means, yes, this seems to be coming down like that, but, it's Monday. So what I experience is that there's a higher chance tomorrow this will just go back up. Okay, and then that's what we call a fake, right? It's a fake move. Monday, it decides to come down a little bit, but tomorrow it rebound back, right? So that becomes like a fake. So most of the time, what I experience is that if Monday, the market is kind of like going in one direction, most of the time it will tend to rebound back first. Okay, and that's the part where just now I mentioned that because some of this setup here that I'm monitoring is already moving today, therefore we might need to be a little bit more patient, simply because if tomorrow this starts to bounce back up, then you need it to form that flag, that correction, you need longer time. Okay, because today did not form that correction. Okay, or it can easily still come down a little bit, but then after that it just comes back up and forms something bigger. Okay, so in any case, I think you need a bit more patient when you start to observe something like that that's happening in the market. Okay, now why I'm looking at dollar yen, because from a daily perspective, same thing over here, we are expecting the dollar weakness to continue. Okay, and dollar yen on a daily setup is super clear. Okay, even today, without much of a technical knowledge, I think can see this as a very fast push down, and then this is a corrective pattern. Okay, we call this like a flag, right? So you have this pole and then you have this flag here, which again tell us that there's a good 60 to 70% time it will continue lower and come down, right? So on a daily perspective, this structure, this pattern is very obvious. Okay, so your target here is around 107.45. That's where I'm looking up for. Okay, however, of course, on the lower time frame, probably need to wait a little bit while for a clear setup. Okay, you do have this double top formation. Today it seems to be breaking that neckline, but as I mentioned, this can easily just go back up, form that bigger move. Okay, so over here, of course, you need to have your own strategy to execute that trade. Okay, because there are just so many ways to execute a trade, right? And all of them work. Okay, so I always say this: you need to find one that suits you. Okay, so this session here is really to have like cut short your analysis process in sharing with you what I'm monitoring, but at the end of the day, I think it's important that you need to have your execution method as well. Okay, so dollar yen, do keep an eye on it. I think there are huge potential to the downside. For me, again, I'll be patient on this because this is moving on Monday. Okay, some other pairs to keep an eye on. Euro CAD over here. Okay, let me bring you again on the high time frame. You can see Euro CAD. This is what I'm seeing. Okay, we do have this nice impulse and then this very massive and very long corrective pattern. Okay, and if I zoom in a little bit, okay, you can see over here, this kind of form, perhaps that reversal divergence setup for a reversal push. Okay, so for me, when I look at EuroCAD, definitely the potential, or I would say the room for price to go up is way greater than this coming down, right? So I would suggest if you're interested in EuroCAD, you might want to focus on the upside, right? Look for buy setup, buy opportunity. From the 4-hour time frame perspective, what I'm seeing over here is my primary target for now is somewhere around 1.5190, right? Okay, and we are seeing this kind of like very, very slow move here. So there's a very good chance, might see this Wednesday Canadian news data, right, which we're gonna get the BOC rate statement as a potential catalyst that can push this up, right? However, you need to also understand it's not gonna be 100% all the time. So this can easily, just come back down, maybe form a double bottom before that push back up. Okay, so you need to, again, I would say, be adaptive to the market, because what I can do right now is to really share with you my view based on what I'm seeing now. Okay, but when the market starts to develop tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, things might change. Okay, so that's where as traders we becomes need to adapt. Right, we can't get too fixated to what we want to see, but we need to then see what the market is telling us. We adapt to it. We might need to change our analysis and perspective along the way. Okay, but for now, this is pretty clear. Okay, you want to focus on the upside on the EuroCAD. Okay, so there are multiple ways you can get involved in. Some of you perhaps are looking at maybe breakout. Some of you may wait for a retracement somewhere at the double bottom formation. Some of you might wait for the push first, maybe go to a lower time frame, wait for the flag, take it. Right, there are many ways you can execute a trade. Okay, but over here, I'm sharing with you that my focus on this pair is to look for the upside. Okay. Next one here I'm monitoring is Euro Australia. Okay. Now this morning when I look at it, this was where it is. I was expecting this to form kind of like a flag today. Then tomorrow I have a very solid trade I can take to the downside. It's moving now. Okay, on a Monday. So, as I always say, right? Monday most of the time it can be a fake, which means that tomorrow it can just do something like that. Okay, or even a deeper correction. And if let's say this were to develop, that I need to be more patient. Maybe the opportunity is going to come later part of the week. It would definitely need to see how this develops. But the direction of Euro Australia is actually very, very clear. Right? On the daily, you can see how this is forming that big corrective pattern on the daily chart. Okay, and then you have this huge momentum to downside, right? And then the sideways move. So you're expecting this to come back down, potentially all the way to 1.5250. Okay, so it's actually a huge opportunity that you can capitalize on, right? So the direction to me on Euro Australia is super clear. All right, focus on the sell side. Okay, and then on the 4-hour, of course, then find how you're gonna execute it, right? So it again broke this here. It can easily bounce back up, maybe form a bigger move that looks something like that. Of course, we can't also take away the probability that this can also come back out, right? Can happen. But the idea again, for me, okay, what I want to see is kind of like a corrective pattern that looks something like that. Then I'll take the trade to down. Okay, more like a flat pattern. Yeah, so this is something that different people will have different ways to take a trade. Okay, some of you might just put in a simple fit and then maybe watch out for the 5618 retracement. Okay, yeah, right. Again, there's no best way. Find a method that suits you. Okay, so Euro Australia, I think it's good to focus for the week. The direction is super clear. Pound Australia is pretty much similar to Euro Australia. Okay, so you can see the setup, right? More or less similar. Just slight difference over here. Okay, so so you see over here on the daily. Okay, maybe show you that. It's also very similar setup to Euro Australia. You can see this move is very, very corrective in nature. So we're still expecting downside, right? Big direction is downside, and of course the room to the downside is far more attractive than that small room to the upside. So I'm looking at sell opportunity on Pound Australia at 1.7415. Okay, this is my target. So on the 4-hour time frame, what I'll be waiting for is a setup to get in. Okay, and for now, okay, based on what I'm seeing right now, tomorrow we might get a trade, or I would say maybe Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday. So the idea you can see is a very strong push. You have this double top formation. Okay, Okay, so what I'm waiting is a very simple flag pattern that's something like that, right, in this scale. If that happened, then we'll have a very good trade to the downside, right? The entry again can be very simple. It can be just a breakout, about 85 pip per stops, 80 pip per stops. The target is down there. The risk reward is definitely worthwhile, right? So I'm waiting for the flag to form. That might take another 1 or 2 days. Okay, you can of course also go down to a lower time frame to look at it. But same thing here, you want to see a very decent kind of like flag pattern that develops, right? If I just rough estimate, that will be 9 of June. Okay, so today is 7, tomorrow's 8, Wednesday is 9, right? So that's why I say roughly that would take another 2 days. Okay, but this setup here, if that develops, is probably going to be very, very clear. Okay, also keep an eye on Pound Australia as well. So Euro odd, Pound odd, very clear setup. Okay, New Zealand yen over here on the daily, I think you can see this also, right? So you see Euro Australia on the daily, this is the flag, right? Yeah, right. So this is the pattern. Okay, and Pound Australia, okay, on the daily, okay, this is the pattern. And then if you go to Kiwi yen, okay, that's the pattern, right? So similar, okay. So that's why I say from technical analysis point of view, you're basically recognizing patterns. Okay, your role is to recognize repeatable patterns and then make full use of those patterns, trade them, because they tend to repeat itself and there's a certain tendency of how they're gonna react. Okay, so same thing over here, Kiwi yen, downside. Focus on the downside. Primary target is 7565, right? Again, huge opportunity to the downside. And then of course, same thing, same process. On the 4-hour time frame, you want to wait for the flag, right? Same thing here. You probably need to give it another 2 days, right? Maybe on Wednesday you come back. If this forms a very nice flag here, then yep, you can take the trade. Okay. Some of you maybe same thing. If you're waiting for the retracement, okay, you can still look for that trade maybe somewhere up here. Okay, then you can see, okay, this is also that previous structure level. Okay, so again, there are many ways to get involved. The idea here is not really to tell you which is the best, because you need to really find which. Okay, so Kiwi yen, look out for it. Other than that, okay, maybe quick one on gold and silver. Okay, commodities, precious metal over here. I think from a big picture time frame perspective, you want to be a little bit patient on that. Okay, so looking at this over here, you can see how this has came and test a couple of times, right? And then this time around, it also did a small rejection. Okay, so my big picture on the precious metal is due to the upside, but I think you want to be patient and give it at least, I would say, a good 2 to 3 weeks, okay, for it to develop this kind of consolidation, right? Because the market tends to go up, then it starts to do a consolidation, have reset, right, recharge itself, then only start to push higher. Okay. So roughly, if you take a look at this scale, this would be 5th of July or the beginning of July. So that is about 3 weeks, okay, from where we are right now. So 3 or 4 weeks, right? So give yourself that time duration if you're looking at the precious metal. Okay, there's a very high chance it's probably going to just consolidate for the next couple of weeks. Or, okay, this can easily, of course, come back down. Okay, but based on the fundamental and macro, I think the probability of this consolidating would be bigger than it reversing. Okay, so if you're looking at gold and silver, then I would suggest that you want to focus on the upside, but at the same time, right now, it's not a good time to just jump into the trade. So patient. Okay, so be patient on that. Yep, so this is on gold. Silver more or less the same, right? Bitcoin, okay, which is where some of you are getting interested in the crypto market as well. From a 4-hour time frame perspective, right? I would say with what is developing right now, in terms of probability, I would break it into 60% upside, 40% downside. Okay. Having said that, it's almost more like 50-50, but from here I can get a bit of more, I would say, details as to what pattern is probably going to develop, right? Looking at this here, this likely gonna do a small like dip that's gonna look like that. Okay, and if that happens, then we have this very nice flag setup. Okay, and that's basically telling us that this can continue the upside. Maybe it might not go so high, but maybe it will just come back up to 4240, 42420, and maybe from here we need to assess again. What's the probability of it continuing or coming down? Okay, but for now, Bitcoin, I think it's important. Okay, for those of you who are interested to maybe look at it from an investment point of view, or even trade it for the mid to long term, focus on this level here, 33730. Okay, high chance is gonna consolidate a bit, come back down, break that level, and this here might then give you that chance of a reversal back up. Okay, potentially towards 42420. Okay, so of course you can capitalize on this move here as well. Yeah, so I think within the week you might get that. Okay, because I think maybe this is something that can develop maybe tomorrow, and then this will come back down. Then maybe on Wednesday this will pop back up, form a mini flag over here. Then maybe later part of the week, if you see something like that, you can take this trade to the upside. Okay, so that's my view of Bitcoin for now. Yeah, I hope you can see from the last 2 weeks when we are doing this here. I share with you, Bitcoin, you better not touch it yet, simply because most of the time after a move like that, it does a consolidation, right? And it's just very difficult to trade within this kind of range environment, because if you buy, you make a little bit of profit and then your profit dissolve. If you sell, same thing. It's very difficult to manage your psychology, okay, or emotion aspect of trading. So that's why during consolidation, you want to stay out as much as you can. And then what you want to do is you want to catch that trade just about when the correction is likely going to end and the next push is coming. Okay, so that's the idea of it, right? That's the idea of what I'm doing as well. We are trying to time where would the correction likely end. Then we want to get in just before the correction end and the market starts moving. Okay, then that trade would be fairly easy to manage, because psychologically and move your stops to protect your profit, then risk free, right? That's how I want to kind of take a look at it, right? So great. Okay, so these are some of the pairs that I would say you want to keep an eye on for the week. Okay, yeah, some of it probably you need to wait until the later part of the week. Some of it by maybe tomorrow or Wednesday, you might get a trade. Yeah. So great. Now, if you guys have any questions, I'll open up the room right now. Okay. All you have to do is just put your questions into the chat, and then I'll be able to look at it and answer your questions. Or if, let's say, you have any particular instrument you'd like me to share an opinion and analysis on, just put it in the chat as well. Right. So cool. Good. So I see Randy here asked about oil, WTI, right? Okay. Now if you take a look at that, this here, okay, this pattern, okay, yes, oil has broke its previous high, okay, which is this horizontal line here. However, how it's breaking it, it looks pretty corrective in nature, right? And most of the time when you see a structure, a pattern like that, if you bring in your RSI, start to see that kind of divergence happening too. Okay, which means lack of momentum. There's a higher chance that this will do a reset first. Okay? Now, when I say a reset here, does not mean it's gonna be a total reversal. A reset can be just a simple corrective pattern like that, where you can see it as a retracement. Okay, and or in a layman term, it's more like you need to take a break, a recharge, because you have no energy already, right? So you take a rest, you recharge, and then you continue going. Okay, so this can happen. Okay, so I would suggest if you're looking at oil, maybe you're expecting this as a correction to form, then you wouldn't want to be involved in this trade here anyway. Okay, so stay out of it. There's also this possibility where whenever we see a lack of momentum that looks something like that, okay, that might be a total reversal, right? A total reversal means it's gonna come down fast. So if I were to take some reference point over here, okay, it has the potential of coming down fast, maybe towards 661. Round out a little bit, $66.20. So this can happen too, which means this drop is going to be fast. So in any case, you realize that when I see a pattern like that, it's not going to be buy, right? So you either wait and hold out, okay, and wait for the flag, wait for the correction to complete, and then you get into the buy, or you want to wait for maybe a sell opportunity. Okay, so over here, of course, if you're looking at breakout entry technique, okay, you can easily put a breakout at the previous low. Maybe you stop at the previous high, you target somewhere here. Okay, that gives you a risk reward of 2.3. Okay, again, you need to assess whether this kind of risk to reward ratio is worthwhile to you. Okay, on a higher time frame on oil, okay, of course, this has the possibility of coming back all the way down here as well. If that happens, your risk reward can then become 1:10, which is very, very attractive. Okay, so keep an eye on oil. I would say this level here, your second level is somewhere around 57.20. Okay, so yeah, okay, if you're looking at oil, I would say the direction you want to pay a little bit more attention to is sell. Okay, but if let's say you really want to sell and you get involved in this trade here, but it doesn't really go fast, right? It goes slow. Then you might want to take that trade out, okay? Because if this comes down very slow, then the probability is more to the upside, right? So that's the part where I say you need to be adaptive. What the market is telling you. Okay, so I think oil is pretty clear. I don't really trade the commodities like that, but I think with you bringing this up, it might be a worthwhile consideration, right? I might consider maybe taking trades, maybe related to shorting oil, but I'll see, right? I usually don't trade like crude oil like that, or I don't trade like XAU. I don't trade gold CFD like that. Okay. But yeah, I'm just gonna put this into my watch list, and then I'll do some research and see whether if I can get involved in this trade anyway. Of course, what I'm seeing over here, again, okay, is that I'm not gonna be very excited with this move down here, of course, but it does have that potential to come down all the way to 720. If that happens, then of course those are trades that I will be very happy to take, right? 1:10 risk to reward. I think no one would reject that kind of setup and opportunity. Okay, so great. So this is something I'll probably keep an eye on. I'm seeing euro dollar. Okay. Euro dollar is a little bit tricky in a way. Okay. If you want to really focus on it, I would say upside, but the upside is pretty limited. Okay. When I say limited, if you take a trade somewhere here, this is your room to potentially capitalize on that profit. It's quite small. Okay, it's about less than 100 pips. So if of course if that's okay for you, right, you are looking at short-term trading, then yeah, right, that is where you can take a look at it. Maybe on the lower time frame, then you can see very clear impulse, a reset, a correction, and then you're looking for this to go up. Okay. Short term, it's worth to consider the upside. Okay, but if you're looking at swing trading, then just be patient. Right now, it's not clear. Okay, not clear meaning there are just so many scenarios of how price can develop. This can easily just go up a little bit and then come back down and then just develop something like that too. All right. So right now, I do not have sufficient information to kind of really project which has a higher chance of happening. Right. So euro dollar over here, not that clear. I'm seeing Krishna is asking about GJ, AJ, and NJ, right? So most of them are the yen pairs. Okay. Now pound yen is more or less similar. If you take a look at this chart, okay, just memorize it for a second. Look at Euro Australia. Sorry, Euro dollar. Similar. Okay, look at that. Okay, this move here. Yeah, and then I go to pound yen. Look at that. Okay, same thing. So my the verdict, the conclusion is the same, right? It's not clear enough because this can easily come back up, okay, or it can break even higher. There's just so many possibilities. This can come up here, continue doing this huge correction, and of course this can come back up here and then just do a double top and a reversal. Too many chances, or I would say both of them are equal probability, right? And therefore, when I see something like that, I would suggest just stay out of it, give it time, let it prove to you what is it likely going to develop, right? Australia yen is more or less similar as well. Okay, it's like in the middle right now of like the high and the low. There are so many ways this can develop. It can go up, then come back down. From here, it can come down and then go back up. So not clear. Okay, so not enough information based on the method that I'm doing analysis. Not enough information for me to come up with a conclusion. Okay, so pound yen, Aussie yen, just leave it aside for this week. Okay, Kiwi yen, we did talk a lot about it. The direction is pretty much very clear, right? It's to the downside. Yeah, so that's on that tree. Knigs asked about Cat Frank. Okay, I think Cat Frank, this pair is not very clean at this very moment. Okay, you do see I seldom really look at all these Frank pairs here because characteristics of these pairs are not sometimes as clear as the others. Now, in terms of daily, I would say there are few possibility of how this can develop. You can see this as a double top, okay, and of course this is the neckline. Then of course here can come back down, retest this. That's one scenario. Okay. However, this looks like it's pretty slow in nature, so this can of course go back up, right? So right now on the daily scale, it's not that clear. On the 4-hour time frame, same thing over here. You can see, well, this is coming down pretty slow. That's where we expect this to go up, but then it doesn't go up very fast. It seems like it's doing something like that. Means this can just be something like that, go up, and then maybe develop something bigger, okay? Or like that, then come down, go back up, and then come back down. Just so many ways that it can develop right now. Okay, so same thing here. I would just stay out of that frame. Okay, it's really not clear. Okay, and where it's priced now is just basically from this significant low and this significant high. It's the middle. Okay, and there's no clear pattern, right? So I would suggest to just stay away from Cat Frank for now. I would say out here asks about SQ. Okay, so take a look at that. That's square, right? If I'm not wrong. Yep. Cool. Okay, so let me take a look at daily here first. Okay, looking at this, it's forming a consolidation. That's very obvious. Okay, so it kind of like tagged this previous low, so that can be a potential mini double bottom. I would say from a daily, there's a good chance this will continue the upside. And of course, if you take a look at the bigger time frame, I believe there's still more upside. So your bias maybe would be more of like upside. Okay, and you want to perhaps time it a little bit better as to where you want to get involved in. Okay, on the 4-hour time frame though, you want to be a little bit cautious from a shorter time frame perspective. Okay, the US market is just open right now. Not much of a move yet. Okay, but what I'm seeing over here, this can be forming maybe kind of like a correction. Okay, so two things that can potentially develop over here, two higher probability scenarios. One is this is going to develop into a corrective pattern that looks something like that. If this is the case, though, you have a very solid case to buy it. However, you want to also take note that this can be something like that. If this is the case, this can easily come back down to do a triple bottom first. Okay. So keep an eye on how it's going to develop here for the next maybe 2 days. Okay. If let's say the next 2 days this becomes more of like that, right? Very very obvious. Then you take the buy. However, if the next 2 days this is just going to develop something like that, okay, like smaller flag, okay, and then you want to focus maybe short term to the downside. Yeah, so that's on SQ. Okay. To go even lower time frame, right now definitely telling you there's a high chance this is likely going to happen. Okay, but whether this is going to just be a bigger corrective pattern, okay, or this is going to be a stronger move to the downside, obviously right now we won't know. Okay, but short term here is the direction is down first. Okay, so that's the view on SQ over here. Hey, Benjamin is asking on Tesla. Tesla, 80 Woods, ARK Invest all has lost their kind of like hype, right? If you still remember, end of last year, these are the few hypes you have like Katie Wood, ARK Invest, Tesla, and then this year the hype has died down. Now Tesla, if you ask me, I think on the technical point of view, I think it has found its near-term bounce, a near-term bottom over here. If I were to put in a line over here, it has a chance that this can go back up. Okay, short term. Okay, but once it reaches somewhere around here, we want to be cautious, is because if this is more like developing like a flag, okay, then this can easily come back down. And what can then happen is that this can be the bigger corrective pattern. Okay. So if you ask me, I'm not very bullish on Tesla at the moment. Okay, if you're looking at maybe long-term investment, I would believe there are better opportunities out there than Tesla at this moment. Okay, if you're looking at trading, short-term upside, but just be cautious when it reaches somewhere maybe around $680. Okay, just be cautious when price reaches there. Okay, so right now it's trading about 590. Okay, you get about $90, which is fairly decent. Okay, so that's a view. Here asked about KeyCat. Okay. KeyCat short term, I think you do not want to trade it because of this. A impulse, more like a V shape, right? So every time you see a V shape, I would just give it some time for it to make prove to you the next move, corrective pattern, then you can take it straight up. But for now, I think this week you're not likely gonna get anything. Okay, and higher time frame, it's not that attractive. Okay, because again, this here you can see, well, this is like pretty significant low. This here can develop, can go up a little bit, the flag, the impulse, and then this come back down. And of course, this can also push all the way back up. Won't know for now, okay, but once price maybe comes out to some lines and colors, right? Yeah. So short term on the daily scale, you want to keep a very close watch on 8855 area, or round down a little bit, 8850. Why is because same thing here. This can easily be a flag, and then this can drop, right, and break this. So keep an eye on 8850, right? So short term here, again, one question and ask yourself whether your plan, let's say here, forms a correction, whether this is worthwhile for you to trade. There's a chance this can just break it and go, but the primary focus is this as a key distance level first, right? So the idea is this is all you have. Is it worthwhile for you to take this? This is on KiwiCat. Okay, not the clearest and not the most attractive setup that, in my opinion, is worth monitoring. Another one is CVS. Okay, if you look at this chart here, short term, very obvious. Okay, some of the analysis past. Let me call this. Okay, longer relevant. Right now, if I take a look at this, short term, very obvious. Downside. short term. So focus on this level here, somewhere around $83.50. Why I say short term downside is because this come down, right? And then this looks like it's forming the correction. Do you expect one more push to the downside here? Now, can this level $83.50 be broken? Yes, it can, right? And if that broken, then probably this is where you see your head and shoulder pattern, and then this is the neckline. More or less, this is your neckline. Okay, and then breaks it. 1:1 target somewhere here as well. Okay, and of course from there, this can do a consolidation, and this, oh, that's possible. Okay, so that's why I say the key area here to keep an eye on is somewhere around $83.50 because you want to monitor how price react at that level. Okay, but short term here, there's a very high chance this will continue down to 815. Okay, however, I think from a bigger time frame perspective, you want to still consider the upside. Okay. So right, so you can see some of my this drawing over here. So if you are looking at from a higher time frame, then has been broken. So there's a good chance this can keep climbing, right? But the idea is more of like, will this form more or less a bigger correction first? So short term, it's to the downside, at least from a 4-hour time frame perspective. Keep an eye on $83.15, right? You start to see kind of like a V-shaped bounce and then a mini correction that looks something like that. Then you can look for the buy. Okay? But if you don't see that, then I would strongly suggest don't buy it yet. Good. Share us about pound dollar. Okay, pound dollar here. I'm still more inclined in the downside for sell, but I doubt we're gonna get a setup this week. Okay, again, price is just basically just going up, going down, going up, coming down. Not clear right now, right? It's basically consolidation, and these are the exact environment that's very difficult for you to go and trade. Okay, you buy very hard, you sell also very hard. So right now, until we get a clearer sign, I would suggest that you want to give this pair, leave it aside for this week. Okay, you want to keep an eye on the sell opportunity, but I think this week you're probably not gonna get any setup that's clear. Ideally, what I'm monitoring is 424 4240. Okay, so I want to see price comes up, kind of like slow down, lack of that momentum around 4240. That would be a good setup for me to sell trade. Okay, but for this to develop, it's probably gonna take the entire week. This week here. Okay, so I'll probably just gonna keep this aside. That's on pound dollar. Okay, Randy asks, any websites there's information about retail trade on the currency pair. If you're talking about maybe like how many people are buying and selling, the percentage of retail traders buying and selling, probably can look into. I don't personally use it, but some of the traders kind of like asked it before. I think like if you go to Baby Pips, if I'm not wrong, have it. IG, they call it IG or Render Market Sentiment. Okay, you probably can find something like that. For me, I don't find them very useful. Okay, but maybe if you find that it's able to give you some advantage in trading, then yeah, those are the websites that I probably hear about, right? ONDAR, maybe you want to just search like ONDAR Market Sentiment, okay, or Baby Market Sentiment. Um, Another one here is new, okay, which is Tesla competitor, right? Just that this one here is based in China. Uh, Now more or less quite similar in the analysis that I'm seeing with Tesla. Okay, there are two key probability of how this can develop. First up, you can see this as an impulse. This is your correction. That's probably going to come back up to 4624. Okay, and then that's going to be another drop. That's one potential scenario of how price can develop, okay, and how it can move. The other scenario is that this is the reversal, okay, and this is where it's going to go up, form a correction, and then continue higher. So what is the key piece of information that you know or you want to observe is how price react at 46.24. Okay? If you start to see a kind of strong rejection at 46.24, then there's a very good chance this will continue all the way down. Okay? If you start to see that at the 46.24 area, this does not really reject to the downside, but starts to just form kind of like a sideways move. Okay, then there's a good chance this will continue higher. Okay, so the key area to really tell you what's next is somewhere around 46.2. It's pretty close, right? Right now it's trading at $42. Okay, so short term wise, of course, likely this can consolidate and just higher. You want to see how price develop as it gets closer towards that. So yeah, so for now, nothing really much that we can anticipate which one. More or less 50-50 for now. We need to observe how price react at. Okay. So that's on the. So Jimmy asks, is there any effect from commodity to FX? Yeah, right. I mean, like crude oil is quite correlated. It's a close relationship with Canadian. Okay, so the idea here is, of course, when they have like kind of a positive relationship. So if oil drops, CAD might weakens. Okay, and vice versa. Uh, but we don't trade, in that way, right? We understand there's a relationship, but does not mean that if oil drops, I go and sell CAD. Okay, that's not how it's gonna work. But you just need to understand that they are related, right? Because sometimes oil can drop, but CAD doesn't drop. Okay, so you do not want to base your trading decision like, oh, if oil drop, I go and sell CAD. Okay, that's not how you want to approach it. But understand that to a certain extent, there's some kind of commodity currency market over here. So I'm seeing Benjamin ask about US 30. That's Dow Jones. Wait, your US 30, are you referring to this 30-year yield, which is the bond market, or are you referring to AI? Because if I type in here exactly as US 30, it's actually our bond, the US bond market. Okay, I'll wait a while and say US 30, which one are you referring to? Okay, because so I make sure that you guys understand. If you guys have any questions, also please don't be shy. Just type it into the chat. Okay. Then from there I'll be able to look at it, right? Yeah. Any more question? It maybe Benjamin, you might want to have like clarify when you mean US 30 what you're referring to. If you're looking at bond market, I will assume that US 30 here referring to the US bond market. First off, I have my macro view on bond market is not very positive. Okay, so from a technical point of view, I might put in a little bit of that macro fundamental bias. Okay, having said that, looking at this chart here, short term, this can likely develop. Okay, so whether from here this we're gonna go back up, break all-time high, or let's say go up here and then somewhere around here forms a double top formation for the drop. We won't know now. Okay, it's too far off. Okay, but I think short term wise is this. Okay, it's probably down. If you ask me macro long term, it's also down. Okay, so the bond market in the US does not look nice, positive. Just be aware for those of you who are investing into the US bond market. for me, fundamental and macro of bond is not positive. Okay, so I think you told me that Dow Jones, right? So that's more like DJI. Um, okay, so now when we talk about like stock indices, Dow Jones, S&P, Nasdaq, okay, understand that there's a very tight relationship between the federal interest rate, okay, their monetary policy, and the stock market. Okay, so if let's say interest rate remains low and the Fed continues to do its quantitative easing, just be confident that the stock market is going to be supported. Okay, so what I mean is, of course, does not mean it's going to just keep going up, 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 up. There will be bound for correction, retracement, but as long as the Federal Reserve continues to keep interest rate low, continue to print money, continue to do its quantitative easing policy, okay, you can see those correction as your buying opportunity. However, if there's a slight hint that it's gonna start to do tapering, or it's gonna do tightening, or it's gonna start increase interest rate, then you want to be very, very cautious with your equity market. Okay, so those are some keywords that I just mentioned, right? So if you hear words like the Fed is considering tapering, considering tightening, they're scaling back in their quantitative easing, right? Which means they're cutting down on quantitative. See, some of these keywords need to be cautious in the stock market, but until then, general direction when you're looking at all this here is up. Okay, so if you're looking at like Dow Jones, Nasdaq, S&P, general direction for now, I would say for the next 3 to 6 months, still up, right? So that's where I have that confidence to look for buy, setup, buy opportunity. Yeah, hope that's clear. There's a question here from Avokar asking about pound cat, right? So we'll take a look at pound cat first. Okay, let me down a little bit. Pound cat on the daily scale, okay, it's messy, right? Look at that, it's messy. The best I can do on the daily scale is really focus on shorter term, because other than that, it's really, really messy. So I would say short term on pound cat, you can expect one more push up somewhere around here. Okay, so on the daily scale, I think the upside is short term. Okay, and if I go down to lower time frame, okay, this is something you can consider to look out for. But this is a little bit far stretch. Okay, normally, when I see something like that is too long, in terms of this corrective phase, I'm not too attracted to it anymore. Okay, before that I was looking for the buy, but this is really, really too long, right? If you take a look at this is like start of May, we are now June, right? 1 month of consolidation that sideways. So the probability is still up, but the chance in terms of percentage wise, maybe it's not that high anymore, right? So if you're still looking for a trade on pound cat, I would say still focus on the buy. But this is not looking ideal anymore. Okay, so if you still want to keep an eye on it, keep an eye on 1.7. Okay, I think that's the key zone to focus on. Yeah, but other than that, not a pair that I'll pay too much attention to, right? Compared to some of those that I've already mentioned earlier today, those are the pairs that perhaps you want to put a little bit more effort to it. Here, not that nice. Okay. Good. Yeah. So another question that you guys sent in is there any website where they give a clue about fundamental, like what the Fed talking about? Okay. Good. Now there is no shortcut to this, right? The idea here again, the best fundamental information that you can get directly from the central bank website. Okay, and a lot of people think that the banks do not want to let you know about their policy. That's wrong, because the central banks want it to be as clear as they can, and they want the message to reach out to as many people in the financial market as they can, right? Why is because if they do something in a surprised manner, right, which means that they don't tell you what they want to do and then they just do it, it's gonna cause surprise, right? It's gonna cause a shock element in the market, and it's not gonna be good for the financial market. So the central bank knows that they don't want it to be shock. Okay? So what the central bank then do is they try and do their very best to communicate the message with the public, okay? And they do it via, of course, their rate statement, their monetary policy summary, okay? Or sometimes you have conferences. So have that in mind, right? Understand that central banks want their message to get across to you as clear as you can. Okay, so for you, the most precious information in understanding the fundamental direction is therefore directly with the central bank. Okay? Now I understand that if today you are maybe not, let's say you didn't take economics school, right? You probably might not fully understand some of the terms, okay, but that's fine, right? All you have to do then just spend a little bit more effort, go and understand keywords. Okay, like for example, if you probably never hear about quantitative easing, you have no idea what it is. Um, Today's technology, just do a simple Google search. Okay, what is quantitative easing? Okay, if you don't understand tapering, then just type in what is tapering, right? So, most of the central banks they only use a certain keywords. Okay, so just like trading, at the first when you get started, you have no idea what is lock, you have no idea what is pit. Um, but eventually you pick that language up, right? Same thing over here, there's no shortcut. Definitely need to spend some time to really learn that language. And then the best information you're gonna get directly from a central bank. Okay? And I would say that it's pretty important for you to go and understand that. Okay, because that gives you some clue, some hint as to the forward guidance of what these banks are gonna do. Okay? It's gonna help you understand the market a little bit. Okay, so again, no shortcut, but I need to do that. Okay, another one here from Abukor asking on Aussie key. Okay, so we'll take a look at that. Now Aussie Kiwi on the daily time frame. Okay, you do see this strong rejection V shape, right? So I would say the direction is to the upside from a daily time frame perspective. Okay, if I go down to the lower time frame, you want to reference this to 1.0805, but looking at how price is developing right now, I think it's gonna do a consolidation first. Maybe spend a couple of days, complete this consolidation. Okay, it can take up to Thursday or Friday. Okay, if I do a simple projection somewhere here, you can see that's 11th of June, which is Thursday or Friday already, right? So if you see a consolidation like that, then you can take the trade up. Until then, don't trade it first. Okay, you want to see something like that. Yeah, so this is an Aussie key, pretty straightforward. But again, this is not a pair that I'll emphasize too much. Is because the room to the upside is not that attractive. Okay, Aussie key. The one you guys sent in is MJ. Okay, there's a few over here. But I would suppose you're referring to this ETF MG Alternative Harvest ETF. That would probably be the closest, right? Yeah, I have no idea what this ETF is, right? I hope I'm getting this right, okay? When you mean MJ, you're referring to this. Okay. And maybe I'll give you some time for Elsa to kind of clarify what MJ is. Whether is it this or not. Okay. We'll look at Malaysia USD. That's interesting. Okay. Have this. We'll look at MYR. Okay, the chart doesn't look very nice to do any form of analysis. Okay, we'll probably change this to line. Okay. Okay. Now daily scale. Okay, looking at this here, there are a few key points. Okay. Of course, this is where the key point is. Um, Okay, quick one. I think likely this is what's gonna happen. Okay, this is the impulse push. This can easily develop into a flag. Then there's a possibility this can come back down here, okay, and break this low. So when that happens, you can see, right, short term, maybe we'll see the Malaysia ringgit weakening against dollar, and then on a longer time frame, see the dollar weakening against the Malaysia ringgit. Okay, so for that to happen, there needs to be a certain catalyst. Okay, for now, obviously we might not know it yet, but I mean, for this to happen, there needs to be a certain form of catalyst, right? Maybe the dollar weakens significantly, right? So that's my view on it. Okay, but I would say it's a little bit difficult to trade. Maybe you're looking at this more for like exchange rate, or maybe you're looking to fund, I don't know, account. Okay, and then you're looking at like when is the dollar gonna be weaker, so I can fund it a little bit more. Need some kind of that thought. Yeah, but looking over here, I think short term it has a good chance of going up. Okay, towards 0.2441. Okay, so this is how I'm looking at Malaysia ringgit against the US dollar. Yeah, so hope that helps. Cool. Okay, so I think MJ here, you're referring to just now what we are looking at, right? Which is this is interesting. The first time I actually see this alternative harvest ETF. Maybe I'll spend some time to go and understand what this is. From a technical chart, I think there's higher chance it's gonna drop. Okay, which means that this here, bring the top in. Okay, this here likely can develop into something like that. Okay, something like that. So you get an impulse. Maybe this will be a running flat and expanding flat. Right now we don't know yet. Okay, running flat means somewhere here. Expanding flat maybe ending somewhere higher. But there's a good chance this would then come back down lower. Okay. Now this one here, why I say that, or why I kind of like forecast this to be a higher possibility of this forming kind of like a flat like that. The hint, the clue is at this low here and this RSI. Okay, there is momentum coming down, right? And therefore that momentum is where I project as a high chance of this continuing down after a reset here. Okay, so usually if from here this is gonna be a reversal, usually you want to see a very obvious divergence. Okay, but at this moment there isn't. Therefore, the primary forecast is that this is going to develop as a corrective pattern. Then there's a good chance this can come down, right? So short term, this can go up a little bit more. But once it reaches around this high, okay, which is 2514, okay, you want to be a little bit cautious on that. Okay, short term upside, but once it reaches 2514, just be very careful of it. Okay, so that's on this pair here. I need to go and find out what this is. Okay, good. So we have another one from Albacore asking about dollar CAD. Okay, now dollar CAD over here in terms of big picture direction, I'm focusing on the upside. Okay, however, this pattern here doesn't show that it's ready yet. Okay, so the big picture direction is up. But the question is more of like when to get involved in that buy. Okay, and at the start I mentioned that this Wednesday we have the BOC rate statement. Okay, that can be a potential catalyst. So I would say maybe on the lower scale, what you want to see. Okay, this is not a buy setup yet. What you want to see is maybe a clearer move that looks something like that. A flag, right? But then this flag, if that's gonna develop, it looks very big, okay, which is not decent. So again, ideally what I want, okay, maybe is push then a flag. Okay, we want to see something like that. Okay, of course this can still form that flag, but it looks a bit big here, right? So yeah, I mean the analysis, the direction is clear. We want to focus on the buy. but it's more about when to get involved in it, right? Right now, there is no clear setup for me, but maybe in your strategy you have, okay, then you want to look out for this entry buy up to target at 1.2350, okay. Um, Definitely worthwhile, okay, because if I scale it up to a daily chart, see it has been falling along. There's not much of a clear retracement yet, okay, so the room to the upside is definitely attractive, okay, so that's something you can keep an eye on for dollar cap. Okay, good. Oh, Randy say, yeah, don't need to trade, just take money. Yep, right, because if you're based in Malaysia and you have some dollar, USD, then of course you want benefit from the exchange rate as well, right? Good. Okay, maybe last question here from Jimmy. Okay, Jimmy asks, is bank's central statement enough to determine future direction? Um, no, it's not gonna be fully sufficient, but it gives you the big picture, right? So the idea again is you want to understand what the big banks are looking out for, what is their big direction, give you some guidance. Okay, but along the way, things might change, right? So, like for example, the Fed say that, oh, we are now monitoring economy. It seems like it's doing pretty well. We might consider tapering soon. Okay, and then maybe with the latest data, there's an economic data that released. Things are not very good already. Okay, it turns bad again. Then the Fed will need to update itself. So the idea again is the good thing about fundamental is it gives you the big picture, but the weakness of it is again don't tell you exactly the details of it. Okay, so it gives you a big broad picture, which is great, which is important, but it can't really give you that detail. Okay, so that's where you also need other form of analysis to complement central bank statement. Yeah, so I hope that helps. Great. Yeah, so yeah, right. I really hope this session over here kind of benefit you guys. Okay. Uh yeah, and I hope some of these opportunities that I share with you gonna turn out fruitful as well, which means that you get a setup, you manage to trade it, and then it goes in the direction nicely, right? And that will be ideally best scenario, okay? So but the idea again is not just about picking trade ideas, but I think from this kind of session, if you can pick up one thing, right? I think that's worthwhile. Okay, one learning point, I think that's worthwhile. Right. So we're gonna end off today's session over here. Okay. Again, thank you guys for being here, being active, engaging as well. So we do this every week. Okay. So if let's say you really enjoy this, then do join us every Monday. Okay. And of course, do me a great favor if let's say you have friends who are in trading, invite them to join us on a session like that as well. Yeah, so that's all from me. All the best for you this week. Okay, and I'll see you guys next week.